Thousands of years ago, long before grocery stores, people lived and worked on a short list of simple foods, and most of them are still in our kitchens today. These are the foods of the Bible, valued for generations for strength and everyday life. Welcome back to the Garden Pantry. I'm Timothy, and today I'm sharing 15 biblical foods people used for strength and wellness. If you love traditional food and simple kitchen wisdom, take a second to subscribe so you never miss a video. Stay with me, because number 10 gave the Promised Land its most famous description. Number 1. Olives and olive oil. Few foods are as deeply woven into the Bible as the olive. The fruit was pressed into a golden oil so valuable that people sometimes called it liquid gold, and it was used for cooking, for lamps, and for anointing. Olive trees lived for centuries, quietly feeding family after family from the same hillside. The oil was a daily staple, drizzled over bread and stirred into simple meals. Enjoyed as part of a balanced diet, good olive oil has been treasured in kitchens for generations, and it remains one of the most useful and traditional foods you can keep on hand. Number 2. Figs. The fig was one of the great comfort foods of the ancient world, eaten fresh in season and dried into sweet, chewy cakes for the rest of the year. Those pressed fig cakes were compact and full of energy, which made them perfect food for travelers and workers on a long day. In one Bible story, a gift of fig cakes revived a man who had gone without food. They also keep for a very long time when dried, which made them a reliable winter food in every household. Naturally sweet and satisfying, figs were a simple way to carry strength in your pack, and they are still a wonderful, old-fashioned treat today. Number 3. Dates. Sweet, sticky dates were a prized food across the lands of the Bible, growing in heavy clusters on tall palm trees. They were eaten fresh, dried for storage, and even boiled down into a thick syrup that some believe was one of the sweeteners the Bible simply called honey. Dates gave quick, lasting energy in a hot, demanding climate, which made them a favorite for anyone doing hard work. Rich and candy-like straight from the palm, dates have been enjoyed as a natural sweet treat for thousands of years and are still loved the world over. Number 4. Pomegranates. With its leathery red skin hiding hundreds of jewel-like seeds, the pomegranate was as admired for its beauty as for its taste. It was so honored that its shape was carved into temple decorations and stitched along the hem of the high priest's robe. People enjoyed the tangy sweet seeds fresh and pressed them for their bright juice. Cooks also scattered the seeds over dishes to add a jewel-like sparkle to the table. A true symbol of abundance and plenty, the pomegranate was a special food that brought color and celebration to the table, and it remains a striking, refreshing fruit to enjoy as part of a varied diet. Number 5. Grapes and raisins. The grape was everywhere in biblical life, grown on terraced hillsides and tended with great care. Fresh grapes were enjoyed at harvest, pressed for juice and wine, and, just as importantly, dried into raisins that could be stored for the lean months. Compact raisin cakes traveled well and gave soldiers and shepherds a burst of natural sweetness and energy. One quick note for pet owners: grapes and raisins are not safe for dogs, so keep them out of reach. For people, though, they have been a beloved staple for ages. Number 6. Barley. Barley was the dependable grain of ordinary, hard-working people, often called the poor man's bread. It grew quickly, survived tough conditions, and was the first grain ready at harvest time. Barley loaves were humble but filling, and in one of the most famous Bible stories, a boy's few barley loaves helped feed a great crowd. Because it ripened early, barley often carried families through the gap before the main wheat harvest came in. Hearty and wholesome, barley made bread, porridge, and soups that kept families going. It does contain gluten, so it is one to skip if you avoid that. But for most, it is a nourishing, traditional grain worth rediscovering. Number 7. Wheat. If barley was the everyday grain, wheat was the prized one, used to make the finest bread on the table. Bread was so central to daily life that the word for it also stood for food itself. Whole wheat was ground into flour and baked fresh, giving warm, satisfying loaves that anchored nearly every meal. Like barley, wheat naturally contains gluten, so those who avoid it will want to choose differently. For everyone else, Simple whole grain bread remains one of the oldest and most comforting foods we have, just as it was in biblical times. Number 8. Lentils. Small but mighty, lentils were a staple that filled countless pots across the ancient world. In one well-known story, a simple bowl of red lentil stew was so tempting that a man traded away his birthright for it. Lentils cooked quickly into a hearty, satisfying meal and gave steady, lasting strength to people who worked from sunup to sundown. Just be sure to cook them well before eating. They also took on whatever herbs and oil were added, turning a few cheap ingredients into a warming, satisfying meal. As an affordable, filling food that fits naturally into a balanced diet, the humble lentil has earned its place at the table for thousands of years. Number 9. Broad beans. Alongside lentils, broad beans were a trusted source of nourishment for ordinary families. When a weary king and his people needed food, beans were among the supplies brought to strengthen them, a quiet reminder of how vital they were. Dried for storage and simmered into thick, comforting dishes, beans delivered real staying power for a hard day's work. Be sure to cook them thoroughly before eating. Simple, filling, and dependable, broad beans were exactly the kind of steady, traditional food that kept whole communities fed through every season. Number 10. Honey. This is the one I promised, and it gave the Promised Land its most famous description: a land flowing with milk and honey. Honey was the great natural sweetener of the Bible, gathered from wild combs and prized as a rare delight. In one story, a tired soldier tasted a little wild honey, and his eyes brightened with new energy. Golden and pure, it sweetened simple foods and made ordinary days feel like a treat. One important safety note: never give honey to a baby under 1 year old. For everyone else, it remains a timeless, natural sweetener. Number 11. Almonds. The almond tree was among the very first to bloom each spring, its pale blossoms a welcome sign that winter was ending. Almonds appear again and again in the Bible, even in the story of a wooden staff that miraculously budded and produced them. They were sent as a gift of the land's finest products and enjoyed as a rich, satisfying food. A simple caution: tree nuts like almonds are a common allergy, so take care if that applies to you. Otherwise, almonds are a crunchy, wholesome snack that people have valued for a very long time. Number 12. Pistachios. When a father wanted to send a gift of the best foods his homeland could offer, pistachios were on that special list. These little green nuts were considered a delicacy, prized for their rich, buttery flavor and easy portability. They made a fine treat and a thoughtful present, a small luxury in a simple world. Like all tree nuts, pistachios can be an allergy concern for some, so keep that in mind. For most people, though, they are a delicious, traditional snack and a reminder that some of our favorite foods are truly ancient. Number 13. Garlic. When the Israelites looked back on their time in Egypt, garlic was one of the foods they missed most, and it is easy to understand why. This humble bulb added bold, savory flavor to otherwise plain meals and was eaten widely by the workers of the ancient world. It has seasoned kitchens ever since and remains a cornerstone of cooking everywhere. 2 quick notes. Garlic in concentrated amounts can interact with blood-thinning medicine, and it is not safe for dogs or cats. Used simply in everyday cooking, though, garlic is a flavorful, time-honored favorite. Number 14. Onions and leeks. Right alongside garlic, onions and leeks were dearly missed foods from Egypt, the everyday flavor base of countless ancient meals. Sweet when cooked and sharp when raw, onions made humble pots of grains and beans come alive, while mild, tender leeks added a gentle, savory depth. They were affordable, easy to grow, and endlessly useful in the kitchen. Like garlic, onions and leeks are not safe for dogs and cats, so share only with people. For us, they remain the simple, savory foundation that good home cooking has been built on for ages. Number 15. Cucumbers. We finish with another food the Israelites longed for in the desert: the cool, refreshing cucumber. In a hot, dry climate, its high water content made it especially welcome, a crisp and hydrating bite on a scorching day. Sliced thin with a little salt, it made a plain meal feel cool and fresh in the heat. Cucumbers were grown in tended gardens, and the Bible even paints a picture of a lonely shelter standing in a field of them. Light, mild, and cooling, the cucumber was a simple pleasure that has refreshed people for thousands of years, and it is still one of the easiest, most enjoyable garden foods to keep on the table. So there you have 15 biblical foods people used for strength and wellness, from olives and figs to honey, almonds, and the humble cucumber. Every one of them fed and sustained whole peoples long ago, and nearly all of them are still within easy reach in our kitchens today. Enjoyed simply, as part of a balanced everyday diet, they connect us to a way of eating that has lasted for thousands of years. Tell me in the comments which of these biblical foods you enjoy most or were surprised to see. And if you enjoyed this, give it a thumbs up and subscribe so you can join me for the next one.